Welcome back. My name is Abke, and this is the Law of One series, episode 18. In today's episode, I would like to unpack one of the most important teachings in the raw material, and that is of spiritual balancing, or balancing the 7 energy centers. Now, in my personal opinion, there is no greater resource available for understanding the metaphysics of the 7 energy centers and how to balance them than the Law of One. When we think about balancing the energy centers, most people think about energy workers or Reiki practitioners who work on balancing the energy centers from the outside in. And this can definitely be a helpful practice. But as Ra teaches, all true spiritual balancing comes from within, from self-awareness, self-forgiveness, and self-realization. So you can get all of the energy work done that you want, but until you actively begin working on becoming aware of and healing your traumas and negative core beliefs and perceptions, then no energy work is going to make a difference for you, because all healing must come as a byproduct of your free will. And so any real energy worker will know this and will simply be there to assist you in this process. So the raw material truly stands apart from all other spiritual texts when it comes to the understandings and explanations that it gives of the 7 energy centers and how to balance them. However, understanding these complex concepts does prove to be a challenge for many. So as I always do, I'm going to try and simplify this for you to really help you unpack all of the amazing nuggets that Ra gives us on the art of spiritual balancing. So let's begin by taking a closer look at how our energy centers actually work. Our 7 energy centers can be divided into 2 categories. The lower 3 chakras, which we can loosely call the earthly or primal rays, and the upper 3 chakras, which we can loosely call the spiritual rays. The crown chakra is not an energy center which we do balancing work in, because as Ra describes, it simply serves as a barometer or readout for the whole energy body. But since the crown chakra does not carry any energies of its own and cannot be manipulated, it is left out of the conversation when it comes to spiritual balancing. All behaviors of the human being find their origin in one of the energy centers. Each center contains different foundational energies which fuel our thoughts, feelings, and actions. The chakras filter and then send prana to every organ and system in the body. The lower 3 chakras can be seen as the power centers, our drive, willpower, passion, and determination. This is the realm of instinct, or the animal nature. The upper 3 chakras represent our spiritual nature, the realm of intuition and divine will. The energy body is made up of 2 oppositely polarized energies. Negatively polarized earthly prana comes in through the root chakra or the south pole and spirals upwards. Positively polarized cosmic prana comes in through the crown or the north pole and spirals downwards. Ra teaches that our life catalysts are drawn to us through the root chakra, based on what blockages we have. We attract experiences that match the vibrations in our lower 3 energy centers. And every life catalyst is designed to create a bias towards either the positive or the negative polarity. Every experience serves to make us feel more separate from reality or more one with it. All 6 energy centers are fed by experience, and they grow weaker or stronger based on the way that every experience is perceived and integrated. Spiritual balancing can be thought of as the art of chakra tuning. If you think of the 7 energy centers like a musical instrument, each chakra or string needs to be tuned to a certain frequency so that it plays in harmony with all of the others. In session 54, Ra says, while it is a primary priority to activate or unblock each energy center, it is also a primary priority at that point to begin to refine the balances between the energies so that each tone of the chord or total vibratory beingness resonates in clarity, tune, and harmony with each other energy. In the balanced individual, The energies lie waiting for the hand of the Creator to pluck harmony. Another important misconception about the energy centers is the idea that all 6 energy centers can be blocked. It's actually just the lower 3 energy centers that contain our blockages and distortions. And it's very common to hear people say things like, my heart chakra is just blocked right now, or I have a blockage in my third eye. And this is not entirely wrong. It just sort of implies a bit of a misunderstanding of how the energy centers work. Our spiritual chakras are completely pure, in the same way that our divine nature is completely pure and doesn't need healing. The heart, throat, and third eye chakras simply act as filters for the prana that is flowing up into them from the power centers of the bottom 3 chakras. So if there is a blockage or an imbalance in one of the lower 3 centers that causes judgments towards others, for example, then the heart chakra has to close off to that energy because the heart cannot hold judgments towards others. So someone might believe that their heart chakra is blocked because they feel it closing, but that blockage is actually coming from the root, sacral, or solar plexus. And since the heart closes off to that energy, it is actually cutting it off from moving any higher up the Kundalini. Every creature on Earth has 7 energy centers, even an ant. But since an ant is a second density creature, it only has the red and orange rays active, and the other 5 lie waiting in potential. In order to even do spiritual balancing, the solar plexus chakra of self-awareness must be activated. And this is why most people's spiritual chakras are not even activated yet, because there's still way too much judgment and separation in their perception, which the upper 3 chakras do not process. So as Ra says, all energy centers lie waiting in potential, but the upper 3 can only be activated consciously. They will not open by accident. So one must do a considerable amount of healing and balancing work on themselves in order to activate the upper 3 energy centers. Balancing the lower 3 energy centers is the great task of a third density lifetime. And once a soul has adequately balanced these lower centers and opened the heart chakra, they are now eligible for a 4th density graduation. So if we don't want to feel our heart chakra closing off anymore, then we need to begin doing the spiritual balancing work to figure out where in the lower 3 centers our blockages are coming from. And this is why Ra calls the heart chakra the great springboard, because it is the connection point between the physical nature and the spiritual nature. As soon as the heart chakra is activated, the throat and third eye chakras are immediately available to do work in. And so Ra teaches us that doing this spiritual balancing work requires us to simply follow 3 steps called the disciplines of the personality. Know yourself, accept yourself, and become the creator. Mind, body, and spirit. Know yourself is the masculine principle. Accept yourself is the feminine principle. And become the creator is self-realization or enlightenment. And so these 3 steps must follow in this exact order. For example, one cannot accept themselves if they do not know themselves. And one cannot become self-realized if they don't first know themselves and accept themselves. So for this reason, Ra uses the word balance instead of heal when it comes to the energy centers, because it's more accurate to think of them as instruments to be tuned rather than something that gets damaged and then needs to be healed again. For example, when we are traumatized, we simply have created an overbalance of negatively polarized energy in one of the lower 3 centers, which needs to be counterbalanced with positively polarized energy. So we're literally trying to tune the chakra to the original frequency like we would tune a guitar string to the right note. So if we're going to balance something in our energy, we must first be aware of what that thing is. And to do this, one needs to live a lifestyle of self-examination and self-inquiry, paying attention to the way that you speak, the way you behave, and the way that you react towards life and towards others. Asking important questions like, why did I react that way? Or why does that bother me so much? Or who is really so offended by this? Is it my divine nature or my animal nature? And as you begin asking these questions, the higher self begins providing you with answers and insights. But if you do not ask, you will not receive. Because once again, all spiritual evolution must come as a function of free will. Once we become aware of something that needs healing in us, perhaps an insecurity, or a trauma, or a negative core belief, then we must move to the feminine principle of self-acceptance or self-love. And this is often called shadow work. Accepting those parts of us that have been hurt or wounded and offering them compassion and understanding is actually a depolarization process of that energy. In traditional shadow work, we are taught to revisit our past painful memories and traumas, but to see yourself and the whole experience with love and understanding and forgiveness, rather than fear and judgment. Because remember, if we're judging a feeling, then it cannot enter into the heart to be healed, because the heart must close off to judgments. But when a feeling is allowed without resistance or judgment, then it enters into the heart where it can receive the healing power of love energy and become depolarized from negative energy into positive energy. And this discipline requires us to begin to see and embody the fact that we are both a soul on an evolutionary journey and the one infinite creator. The dream and the dreamer. Both are true. And so this is why we must learn to stop defining ourselves by our mistakes and our shortcomings, because it is an inescapable part of spiritual evolution, and it does not define who and what we ultimately are. Feeling guilty for your mistakes is kind of like trying to stand outside of yourself and kick yourself, because our souls literally come here for the purpose of learning and growing through mistakes. And so until we can learn to accept and love ourselves exactly as we are here and now, then we can never begin to see ourselves as the creator. But that is what step 3 requires of us. At some point, we have to stop seeing ourselves and relating to ourselves as a body that's guilty for all of its past actions, and instead choose to see ourselves as the one infinite creator, which also implies that we must see everyone else as the creator as well. And so this is why the third discipline requires a tremendous amount of meditation and contemplation on one's eternal nature. And this is also what activates and strengthens the third eye chakra. This is why forgiveness is the most important part of balancing work, because forgiveness is the only thing that shortens the soul's need for karmic experience. Meaning, until you have learned to love something, which means to accept it and understand it as it is, then the universe doesn't think that you've mastered it yet. So it's going to keep sending you the same catalyst again and again until you can learn to accept it completely. And on this note, in session 34, Ra says, "Our understanding of karma is that which may be called inertia. Those actions which are put into motion will continue using the ways of balancing until such time as the controlling or higher principle which you may liken unto the breaking or stopping is invoked. This stoppage of the inertia of action may be called forgiveness. These two concepts are inseparable." As we know, the 7 energy centers correlate to the 7 densities of consciousness. So let's take a look at the energetic makeup of each energy center so that we can see what forgiveness work is required of us when balancing these centers. The red ray or root chakra compromises our basic animal nature of survival and sexuality. It is blocked by fear, sexual shame or distortions, lack of security, or physical and sexual traumas. The forgiveness work that the root chakra requires is a full acceptance of ourselves as a physical and sexual being. One who has fully accepted being in a physical body and their sexual nature has unblocked the red ray. The orange ray, or sacral chakra, represents our relationship to ourself, our personal willpower, and drive to improve ourselves. This energy center is blocked by emotional traumas, self-judgments, the desire to possess or be possessed by another, and addictions. By forgiving ourselves for past mistakes, loving and accepting our individuality, we open and unblock the orange ray. The yellow ray, or solar plexus chakra, represents our relationship to others and self-awareness. This is our social persona, and this is also the chakra that finally allows the ego to appear. This energy center is blocked by social anxiety, jealousy and pride, desire to worship or be worshipped by others, and victimization. By forgiving ourselves for anyone we have hurt and those who have hurt us, and accepting ourselves to the degree that we no longer need approval from others, represents a fully balanced yellow ray. Once the bottom triad of the primal rays are adequately unblocked, it opens the gate to the green ray, or heart chakra, which represents love and understanding. The green ray is our portal to unity consciousness. All compassion and forgiveness comes from this energy center, as love is the most fundamental essence of the Creator, and therefore of ourselves. The blue ray, or throat chakra, represents wisdom and authenticity. This is our ability to communicate honestly and to radiate who we are, regardless of the feelings or actions of others. Self-knowledge is wisdom, and the ability to express our self-knowledge is authenticity. And finally, the indigo ray, or third eye chakra, represents our spiritual vision and empowerment. This is the center where self-realization takes place. And this energy center knows nothing of being separate or individual. It only knows itself as the One, the universal I. So any energies of unworthiness, fear of self-knowledge, or insecurity cannot be processed by the third eye. The indigo ray provides all the power for psychic and supernatural abilities, and it opens our awareness to dimensions of consciousness far beyond the physical plane. Because of this, it is an energy center that cannot be described, but must be experienced in order to be understood. In session 39, Ra says, "The indigo ray, though precious, is that ray worked upon only by the adept, as you would call it. It is the gateway to intelligent infinity, bringing intelligent energy through. This is the energy center worked upon in those teachings considered inner, hidden, and occult. For this ray is that which is infinite in its possibilities. As you are aware, those who heal, teach, and work for the Creator in any way which may be seen as to be both radiant and balanced are those activities which are indigo ray." So as you can see, you are quite literally a universe in and of yourself. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm. The Law of One shows us that in the same way that the universe has 7 densities of consciousness that it evolves through, you also have 7 energy centers that you must evolve through as well. And spiritual balancing is that work and that process of evolution, of bringing every distortion and imbalance to the disciplines of the personality. The masculine principle of self-awareness, the feminine principle of self-love, and the principle of self-empowerment or self-realization. The sad truth is that most people go through their whole lives without ever knowing themselves as anything more than a separate self. A body full of flaws and imperfections destined to die. And they never become aware of the infinite potential that exists within them to experience all of the wonder and mystery and majesty of this universe. But once we become aware that we are pure energy moving through a physical vessel, and that energy can be tuned and balanced and harmonized and expanded, then life becomes extraordinarily exciting and meaningful. And every day is alive with new opportunity to grow and discover yourself and manifest more of your divine potential. And that is what is available to you through the practice of spiritual balancing. And so now, as always, I'll leave you with one final quote from Ra. Each experience will be sequentially understood by the growing and seeking mind-body-spirit complex in terms of survival, then in terms of personal identity, then in terms of social relations, then in terms of universal love, then in terms of how the experience may beget free communication, then in terms of how the experience may be linked to universal energies, and finally, in terms of the sacramental nature of each experience. Meanwhile, the Creator lies within. In the North Pole, the crown is already upon the head, and the entity is potentially a god. This energy is brought into being by the humble and trusting acceptance of this energy through meditation and contemplation of the self and of the Creator. Where these energies meet is where the serpent will have achieved its height. When this uncoiled energy approaches universal love and radiant being, the entity is in a state whereby the harvestability of the entity comes nigh.